All right, it's time to talk biggest takeaways of San Francisco 49ers training camp so far. We've gone through 2 blocks, one without pads, one with pads, and there are some takeaways. Obviously, I think with the 49ers, it goes without saying that injuries are always going to be, at least in my opinion, one of the number one takeaways of training camp. Can you get through camp healthy? Unfortunately, they have dealt with some injuries. I think 2 of the biggest concerns so far have been Michael Williams, who was not practicing yesterday with what was described as a minor ankle, and Juwan Jennings, who had to leave with a calf injury and has not been back for the last 2 days. Ricky Pearsall returned to practice, had a scheduled rest day. But again, when it comes to the 49ers and the success that they're going to have this season, it is always going to point directly back to injuries. Can you stay healthy? Now, on the flip side of that, Christian McCaffrey is back. He looks like himself. He's CMC. You guys saw that catch that he had in one-on-ones versus Chaz Surratt. Just a beautiful catch. You could see the speed is back, and that's what we've seen from Christian McCaffrey so far in training camp, is that he is ready to go. So, not too concerned about those things. Again, being able to see Trent Williams out there and seeing guys back like Fred Warner, who was dealing with an ankle all last year, him be back. But again, one of the biggest takeaways is health. Can we stay healthy? And especially going into the season, you don't want to see your guys like Renardo Green get banged up, guys like Jacob Cowing, etc. So that is, to me, one of the biggest takeaways. But once pads have come on, I think one of the bigger takeaways as well is that I think this defensive line is going to be potentially better than what we saw last year. Now, again, it's still early in camp, only 2 days of pads, so we're still assessing, still reviewing, but CJ West, Alfred Collins, Michael Williams, Bryce Huff, Sam Okiwanu, these guys all look like they're going to be big-time contributors. And don't forget, Kevin Givens is, when healthy, to me, is a very solid contributor as well. I think Jordan Elliott has actually quietly had a strong camp too. So when you look at this defensive line group, I think what we're starting to see, that even though there are some young pieces on it, I do think that they're an ascending group. So I'm pretty excited about what this defensive line group could hold. And obviously, I didn't even mention Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa has been one of the best players in training camp so far through the first 2 blocks. Again, he's Nick. He is hard to block, and he is constantly around the quarterback. So, I'm really, really excited about the defensive line group. Biggest takeaways from the linebacking core: D. Winters. D. Winters on the first day of pads looked like Dre Greenlaw reincarnated. It was insane. It was one of the more, dominant practices I've seen from a singular player. I kind of think back to like some of Brandon Ayuk's prime training camp days where he's just dominating all day, every day. D. Winters was all over the field. He was flying. He was decleating guys. He was making run stops, tackle for losses, PBUs. He was everywhere. So I think D. Winters has had, one of the best camps in regards to players who are fighting for a starting spot. So D. Winters has been solid, but overall, I think the whole, young linebacking core has been solid as well. Jalen Graham has flashed quite a bit. Chaz Surratt has flashed. Gifford has flashed. Nick Martin has flashed. A lot of these guys have been playing pretty solidly, so I like that. When it comes to the cornerback room, and the DBs, I think we all know that is kind of a thinner group, and we're trying to identify who's going to be the standouts there. I think Dallas Flowers is earning a roster spot with this camp. I think he is a long corner. He kind of has a similar frame that resembles Travarius Ward. He is a great athlete. He can elevate. He can get high. He can make PBUs. So Flowers is a guy that I think is standing out at 49ers training camp from the cornerback room. So that's one that I'm going to be curious to see how it continues to evolve. And on top of that, I think Jason Pinnock has a strong opportunity to get the start at safety. You have Jair Brown there who's going to be competing, obviously Malik Mustafa and all of those guys. But in regards to the overall defense led by Robert Saleh, it looks like an exciting development for that group. So I'm pretty excited to see what that defense looks like when it's all said and done. Over to the offensive side, I'm pretty happy with how Brock Purdy has been playing. Obviously, Brock hasn't been perfect, but for the most part, again, the first day of pads, he was electric. I thought he made 6 to 7 wow plays on the day, just in all different types of varieties and ways. And I think that's what you want to see. You saw him play within structure. You saw him make plays outside of structure. You saw him have to get out of the pocket with his legs. You saw a lot of different things from Brock. So I think Brock is definitely going to continue to improve and get better and take strides to the next level. I also think Mac Jones has been really good. I think Mac Jones to me, you can see why, he was a Pro Bowler at one point. He really throws a nice ball. He has great ball placement, great spin on it, great anticipation. Mac Jones, to me, is probably going to be a starter in this league at one point. I think him, coming to the Kyle Shanahan system, getting, some of that coaching and, I think it's going to be pretty reminiscent and similar to what we've seen with guys like Sam Darnold and stuff like that. So I do think Mac Jones has been solid. So I think, phenomenal backup. Honestly, I don't even know, I've heard people kind of floating like, oh, what if we trade Mac Jones? He's on a 2-year deal. So I would actually just keep Mac Jones. I would want that security blanket. I think I would feel more comfortable having Mac Jones because, we saw what happened when you had to rely on a guy like Brandon Allen. Just was not ideal. I do think that if, knock on wood, Brock was ever to go down in season, I do think Mac Jones would be a very competent backup. I think you could win games with Mac Jones at quarterback with this team. So I'm more keep Mac Jones this year, heading into maybe the final year of his deal, of his 2-year deal. Maybe then you start considering a trade after he's, gotten some tape, played some preseason, do some stuff like that. But I would say you keep Mac Jones this year just as security. But I think also one of the biggest takeaways for 49ers camp is I think the running back room is solid. Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerrero, Patrick Taylor, Jordan James, and Corey Kiner. I think all of those guys are capable backs. I think Jordan James has really shown out as a guy who can be a kind of a dual threat running back, a guy who can run between the tackles, run to the out, speed to the outside, and also be effective as a pass catcher. So I think Jordan James has been solid. I do think that Corey Kiner, I keep calling him the muscle hamster. He reminds me of like a hamster that's running around in one of those little hamster balls, and he just bounces off things. His feet never stop. They just keep going. He's not the biggest guy, but he just is he's like a hamster wheel, or whatever those things are called. And then again, like I mentioned, CMC's all the way back. Isaac Guerendo's got speed, and I think it's going to be a really solid running back room for the 49ers. Offensive line, I think one of the bigger takeaways is I do think Colton McKivitz is taking a step. I think Colton McKivitz has had multiple really good reps against Nick Bosa in multiple days. I talked about their 3-rep session and one-on-ones where Bosa beats him, then they run it back. McKivitz beats Bosa, they run it back again, and they draw. I mean, to me, that's great news for the 49ers offensive line because, full honesty, Bosa has taken advantage of Colton McKivitz over the years. And to see that it's more of a level playing field as of late isn't because Nick Bosa is washed. Let's not get that twisted. Nick Bosa is having a phenomenal camp. But I do think it also speaks to Colton McKivitz and his growth heading into year 3. So I'm really excited about that. Nick Zakelj has been a surprise. He has been a mainstay at the left guard spot. It honestly is going to be a bit of a challenge. I think they will open it up for a competition between Ben Bartch when he comes back, but there has been no one who's been competing with Nick Zakelj at left guard. So he's been solid. I think the offensive line, from what I've been able to see, has been solid as well. The backup, the depth is more concerning, but that's another conversation for another day. But I think one of the biggest takeaways at wide receiver has been some of the guys that you haven't really been expecting to have big plays or big days. Russell Gage, I think, is earning a roster spot. He is playing really, really well, and he's developing a good rapport with Brock Purdy. They connect consistently on very challenging plays, challenging throws, and Russell Gage just has a knack for going up and getting the ball, especially in hard spots. So Russell Gage has been a standout in my opinion. Jawan Jennings, when he's played, looks like Jawan. Ricky Pearsall looks solid as well when he's available. So those guys look good. Jordan Watkins had the biggest play of camp for himself on the 50-yard deep ball from Brock Purdy just yesterday. So they're looking better. There's still a lot of questions, I would say, with the wide receiver room in regards to who's it going to be to fill out that room. With Jacob Cowing also out, Equinemius St. Brown is getting more looks. DeMarcus Robinson is definitely going to be a solid piece in the rotation. But who's going to be that 6th guy? What is it going to be? Junior Bergen? Not really sure. As it stands right now, I would definitely have Russell Gage over Junior Bergen as it stands today. But we'll see how that continues to go. You still have guys like Isaiah Hodgins and all that stuff. Another big takeaway from camp is George Kittle. He looks phenomenal. He looks like, you hear it all the time. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. He looks like prime Kittle. He looks energized. He looks fresh. He looks fast. He looks like prime George Kittle. That guy has not lost a step. If anything, he might have gained a step. I'm expecting a huge year from George. I expect him to be the 49ers' leading receiver this upcoming season. So, I think George is solid. I think George is going to do what George does. Luke Farrell, Tonjes, Braden Willis, Dwelly's back. I don't know who's going to be the tight end 3. One thing that I have noticed is Mac Jones has built quite a decent rapport with Braden Willis. Mac Jones finds Braden Willis quite a bit in team periods. But Tonjes is also strong. Tonjes made the roster last year out of camp. So Tonjes might be a guy who could also do that again. Mason Pline has showed some good stuff as well. But they're all kind of in that same tier. So it's going to be interesting to see who pulls away in training camp. And then I guess, I think we talked about the whole offense, all the offensive positions. Kyle Juszczyk looks great too. Can't forget about him. He's had a really good camp as well. And then kickers, Jake Moody, Joseph, honestly, there hasn't been a clear winner. They've kind of been the same, honestly. There hasn't been a guy who's pulling away. They've made similar amount of kicks, missed a similar amount of kicks. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this kicker competition plays out. But they're really treating it like a competition. It's all eyes on those guys when it's time to kick in team period. You got Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Robert Saleh, Mike Shanahan just hovering around these guys, almost adding pressure to the situation. But I'm fascinated. But, from a high-level standpoint of looking at, Kyle Shanahan's energy looks completely different, and watching him kind of interact in between drills and things like that, he just looks happier. I don't know how to explain it. I do pay attention to body language quite a bit, especially on the football field. It's one of the things that I evaluate. And his body language just feels different than previous years. Like, he's joking around. It looks light. It looks like they're comfortable. It looks like they're confident. It looks like when you see Shanahan, Saleh, and Lynch, just like, it's almost like Kyle's like, I can breathe. I got Saleh. He's going to do exactly what I need him to do on defense. I know defense is in a good spot. Obviously, now that Saleh returns, he has that head coaching mindset as well. So I think Kyle he just looks like he's glowing. Good for Kyle. And, I think the energy at practice has kind of matched that. So overall, biggest takeaways is this team is going to be competitive as long as they stay healthy. That's really what it comes down to. So I do, early returns, probably early. I expect this to be a playoff team. Again, the biggest caveat is, can they stay healthy? That, to me, is their number one deterrent from returning to the playoffs. So we'll see how everything plays out, but that's my recap of the first 2 days of 49ers training camp. Not 2 days, 2 blocks. Day off today. But let me know what you guys think about this breakdown in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.